Today I'm going to show you how to make a simple face mask with things you have at home. What you'll need is a piece of fabric that can be washed at 60 degrees. You could use an old bed sheet, pillowcase or duvet cover, an old tea towel or even an old shirt. This is an old shopping bag. You'll also need an A4 piece of paper, a pair of scissors, a tape measure or a ruler, needle and thread, some pins or something that could be used as weights, an iron, and some elastic or ribbon. If you don't have elastic or ribbon, you could use hanging loops from old clothes, string, or even an old bra strap. Using the paper as a template for your mask, place the paper onto the fabric and pin in place. If you don't have pins, you could use weights or heavy objects to weigh the paper down. Cut out the template. Remove the pins. And fold the fabric in half. Now iron the fabric to get a sharp crease at the folded edge. Once you have a crisp fold, you now need two 22cm lengths of elastic or 4 35cm lengths of ribbon. The elastic will make the classic loop around the ears design, and the ribbon will make the tie around your head design. Now's the time to dig out your needle and thread. Thread your needle with one short tail end and one long tail end. Take your fabric and open it up and place your elastic or your ribbon about 1.2 centimetres in from the top edge, making sure that your elastic is facing in towards the centre of the mask. We're now going to stitch through the elastic about 1 centimetre in from the edge. Thread your needle through the fabric, leaving a small tail, and then take it through the fabric again 2 or 3 times. This will secure it into the fabric. Now we're going to stitch through the elastic. As the elastic is quite thick, it might be easier to go in and out rather than in a loop. When we get above the elastic, we're going to go back through When you get back to your starting point, turn the fabric to the wrong side. We're going to tie off a knot. Put your needle through the fabric, take your end and wrap it round the needle and then pull through. Do this a couple of times to make a knot. Now we can trim the end. Now we're going to stitch the bottom of the elastic to form the ear loop. Make sure that the elastic isn't twisted and place it a couple of millimetres above the fold in the fabric. And then stitch through in the same way as before, about 1 centimetre from the edge of the side. Once you've stitched it in place, repeat the same process on the other side. If you've used ribbons, you'll have stitched 2 ribbons on this side. Now stitch ribbons on the other side. Now fold the fabric in half with the right sides together, encasing the elastic inside. We're now going to gather the ends of the face mask. Take a needle and thread with a double length of thread with a knot in the end. And on one end, starting at the fold about 1 centimetre in, do a small stitch. Repeat to anchor. And now we're going to do a tacking stitch down the length of the end. This is a wide stitch of about 5 to 6 millimetres. Continue along, ensuring that the ends are together. Once you get to the end, we're going to pull on the thread to gather the end. Now we want to gather this to 6 centimetres. Once you've gathered to the required length, do a stitch to secure the end in place. And cut off the thread. And then repeat the process on the other side. Now your face mask is starting to take shape. Just check that you haven't caught the elastic or the ribbon in your tacking stitch. If you have, just unpick and redo. Now we're going to securely stitch the end by stitching just inside the tacking line with a much smaller stitch. Make sure that you gather the gathers, leaving a flat end of about 1.5 centimetres at the top edge. Don't worry if you haven't got that, because you can just respace them. Right, now we're going to just do the small stitch. Start at the fold and do a security stitch as normal, and then stitch along the length using small stitches just inside your previous thread line. This part is a little bit tricky, so persevere. Once you get to the end, just go back on yourself. It'll be much easier the second time round, following the same stitch line, making small stitches. This is to give that end seam a little bit of strength. Continue to the end, and then once you get to the end, just tie the thread off in a knot. Once you've done one side, repeat the process on the other side. Don't worry about it being too neat. You just need a small tack line inside the bigger tack line. When you open up the inside, it should look like this, like a gathered seam. The next step is to finish the top edge of the mask. We want to leave a small opening so that we can turn the mask out the right way. First off, we need to mark this opening. Measure from your stitch line in 6 centimetres and then cut a small notch. Repeat the process on the other side. Now we're going to stitch 1 centimetre below the top edge, but from the stitch line to your notch. Start your stitching just above your elastic, where you've sewn in your elastic at the side seam. You'll be able to feel this through the fabric. When you get to your knot, tie a knot off. We're placing the needle through the fabric, passing the end of the thread around the needle and then pulling taut. Do this a couple of times. You can then cut off the thread and repeat the same process on the other side. Before we turn the mask out the right way, we just have a couple more actions. First, fold over between your stitch lines where the hole is and iron these little flaps in place. This will help the mask sit better once it's turned the right way. Now turn your mask through the right way by going through the hole. It's a bit easier if you grab your ribbon or your elastic. Pulling everything through the hole. Just get right into the corners once you've turned it through. And there we have our finished mask. There's a small hole at the top edge which you could use to insert a filter paper or a vacuum bag to give added protection. If you're doing this, please make sure that they are fiberglass free. And finally, just fit your mask to your face, and if you find that your elastic is too long, just tie it in a little knot at each end until it fits. It's much better to have elastic that's too long than too short at this stage. Thanks for watching.